the best day of your life, the hardest decision you've ever had to make, the funniest movie you've ever seen. These are the things that we love talking about. And today, we're going to look at how you can do this just a little bit better. All right, so I want you to tell me your stories, but the truth is we are going to do some grammar. Today, we're looking at superlatives. The superlative is the grammatical construction that we use to show the highest degree of something, a very, very, very high degree. So I'm sure you've seen some of these structures before. We have much and many, we have more, and we have most. Little in the comparative becomes less, and in superlative, least. Perhaps more familiar are good, better, and the superlative, best. We also have bad, worse, and worst. And finally, strong, stronger, and strongest. So you've probably noticed a pattern. In the superlative, it ends with this st or est. Let's take a closer look. There are 5 ways we might put together superlatives. Let's take a look at them one at a time. First, we just add est. So clean becomes the cleanest. Always include the in front of your superlative. Far becomes the farthest. Old becomes the oldest. Very simple, very straightforward. You add the at the beginning and est to the end. The second construction is changing the y to an I and adding est. Tidy becomes the tidiest. Busy becomes the busiest. And dirty becomes the dirtiest. Note, there's shy becoming the shyest. Occasionally, there are exceptions. The next one is the double consonant. Big adds an extra G, the biggest. Sad adds an extra D and becomes the saddest. Fat, the fattest. Thin, the thinnest. You get the idea. And then finally, vowels. Words that end with a vowel and then get modified. Free becomes the freest. Yeah, that one's a little weird. Fine, we just add the finest, st. Large, the largest. Safe, the safest. And finally, you have some slightly different words, words that change the form completely. Just as we saw in the beginning, more becomes most. Little becomes least, good becomes best, and bad becomes worst. Now, you've probably noticed that all of these adjectives that get changed to the superlative form, they're all short. They're one-syllable words. Now, this is going to be a little bit different for the longer 2- or 3-syllable words. Let's take a closer look at those ones. So in this case, we add the word most or least in front of the adjective. Careful, 2 syllables, becomes the most careful. Expensive, 3 syllables, the most expensive. We also get the most boring, the most difficult, the most interesting. And don't forget, the most, always. We have the most careful, but we also have the least careful. And you can see we have the rest of them as well. The least expensive, the least boring, the least difficult, and the least interesting. Now, I've just given you a lot of information, and you might be thinking you need a little extra help. Well, check this out. Down below, we've got a downloadable. It's got a full list of all the things that we've talked about here today. Now, I've been teaching a long time, and there's certain mistakes that come up quite a bit. So let's talk about a few common errors that happens when people use the superlatives. The first one is, remember, you want to include the. There may be some times where it comes out, but most of the time you're gonna need that in there. So practice using the before your superlative. The biggest, the most. Another problem is putting most with another superlative. The most biggest, the most strongest. Only once. Once you say most, you don't need to add it at the end. So remember, that's going to be the strongest, the biggest, the best. Another one that's similar to this, sometimes teachers might hear that they are their best teacher. And that's a very nice thing to hear, but what you probably want to say is either you are my favorite teacher or you are the best teacher I've ever had. All right, now that's the grammar of it. But as I said, I don't really want to teach you grammar. I want to hear your stories. I want to know about you. So here are some phrases you can use to try and build the superlative form into your everyday speaking or writing. Let's take a look. The best movie I've ever seen is. The best day of my life was. Mark is the best teacher in the galaxy. That's right, the galaxy. The most helpful advice I've ever received was, or is. It's up to you. One of the hardest days of my life was, and then tell me the story. The scariest thing ever is. Tell me, what is the scariest thing ever? The funniest thing I've ever heard or seen is. All of these expressions are just wonderful for really telling people and communicating with them about you. And really, that's what we should be using language for, to tell our stories, to communicate and to connect with people. So I hope you find these helpful. As an example, why don't I demonstrate what we're looking at here? The best day of my life was. The best day of my life was when I got married. It was a beautiful day. Many of my friends were there, and my family was with me as well. I was really lucky. The weather was beautiful. To be honest, I didn't really care about the weather. It was just a nice bonus to have the sun. How about the best teacher I've ever had? The best teacher I've ever had was my year 12 high school English teacher. He really inspired me to become more interested in stories and poetry. It was a subject I never really cared about, but he would tell us his own personal stories of his life and how they connected with some of the themes in the poetry. And he really taught me that if you want to teach people, you have to connect with them. So these short phrases are wonderful. They can introduce a story, or they can end the story with a little bit of emotion. And I have one more pro tip for you, and this is connected with pronunciation. I love superlatives because it's an easy way to practice better pronunciation. I love playing with sentence stress. That means choosing what word is going to get a little bit more energy, and superlatives are perfect for this. Let's take a look. So I don't want you to say, it was the hardest day of my life. I want you to say, it was the hardest day of my life. Repeat this with me. It was the worst day of my life. You can feel the emotion when I do that. It was the funniest thing I've ever heard. It was the biggest disappointment. It was the most embarrassing thing ever. So these words are a wonderful place to add a little bit of stress. All right, everybody, that's it for today. Be sure to check out the downloadable down below. And if you need any more help, check out our website. Otherwise, everybody, please, in the comments below, tell me one of your stories. I want to know the best day of your life. the hardest decision you've ever had to make, or maybe the best teacher you've ever had. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.